Could be a little bit dark tunnely to just lamp it in here in the hopes that your opponent doesn't have a strong holding, a 10 jack, a loose open 10-6, a 7 of some description. Oh, he does find it!
Look at this. What on earth? And this, you know, we've seen who very steadfast in the face of very frustrating situations, but now I feel like there is enough happening where if cracks will begin to show in that seed, David, they certainly would rate to do so from this point forward. Courtesy largely of Svesko, just proving to be this pesky,
No, it's we are
almost
really
disrespectful presence.
No, yeah, not that.
Might be, yeah.
That's gangster street poker there.
Certainly was.
How your cash game?
Cash game, very good.
You're winning.
Small. Cash game is small.
$600.
Guys, that was Jack 5 and Queen 6 of hearts on a 9, 7, 7,
So you
8
got
board.
13.5, something like that, or?
Yeah.
Bet
Okay.
jam.
Yeah. Street poker, as you said.
Little bare knuckle in this ring now, as the gloves appear to have come off.
6.5.
Now then, Dukic, who we know likes to scrap, does deliver 6.5 of his 9.8 forward with this King 7 suited, and in doing so sheds the other King 7. David, I know you're always a note taker, feverishly scribbling away after that last exchange. Were you simply writing "never bluff Svesko" over and over again like a child at a chalkboard?
I suppose what really strikes me after not just that play, the King 6 or King 4, whichever it was, when he raised blind v blind in a spot we didn't expect for a third of a stack a little while ago as well. Just this gear change and this bravery from a player with a modest enough record who really did cockroach his way to 6th position of 6 left, and having sort of taken the bull by the horns with that ace-7 spot, which I think he worked out was probably just about okay, gets the big double moments later, gets into a chip lead, loses the chip lead, but still, rather than going back into his shell and sort of playing humdrum poker, trying to outlast other, he's actually really gone for it here.
No resignation whatsoever, no defeat, no surrender. And Dukic, yet again, with a large chunk of his chips, being committed to a pre-flop raise with the suited connector, just 10 high at the end of the day in the face of anybody that wants to spin. Works out for him.
And now you like.
I would
third
really
stack.
enjoy watching
One open and you.
a
third
swallow
stack.
fly out of the dealer's hair.
That's absurd.
A small bird
Insane bunch
that
of
makes its home in nests
Very
of
rich
that
people.
shape. I think that would really wake us all up.
That's going to be the grand finale, is it? At the, when the last card is dealt?
Fun,
Yeah.
fun.
Still 5 here. Hand 64 of the final table. Who would have thunk more than half our final tablists would still be in their seats at this late hour?
Nobody.
I certainly didn't.
Nobody. How much longer can the war of attrition continue? And war is very much an apropos way to describe that which we have been witnessing as these generals command their armies. 2 million to go as Queen Jack picks up Jack 10, delightfully enough.
Squeezable for Dukic. Obviously, you'd love your 3 to be of diamonds, but it's not a hand you love calling and navigating at this stack depth because a lot of reverse implied odds. Just let it go in the end. Let the others battle it out, maybe get a ladder jump as a result. Everyone's shallow enough with one another now, even the 2 biggest stacks, these guys.
Well, now a game of who wants it. As nothing cooks in either camp. The cupboards are both bare. Svesco with the advantage of the betting lead, but going up against that covering stack, and he treads lightly. At least for the time being, we never know what he's up to.
Opens the door now for Atala. You mentioned there how he was keen to use position with the 3s in that other hand, and I can think of at least another couple of examples where he's used position, used the button in that way. I remember a 7-8 suited earlier on, or perhaps it was an 8-9 suited, but something of that nature. And now we see with no hand, no draw, same execution, job done.
Atala doing what few have been able to for the better part of the last few orbits, and that's take down Svesco Bucks. You think Svesco wins this thing and even cracks a smile when he
You got like
does?
37?
He's all business right now, that's for sure.
Yes, he is. That's a man whose shop you don't walk
55.
into and then think to yourself, I'm sure I can negotiate the price on this. Atala negotiating with King 4 offsuit. Decides to give it a rest. King Deuce suited now for Oleg at the button. He is in for the long haul. You saw him step away from the table, get in some stretches. Looks fresh.
Wondering if he can get a sneaky one through here. King blocker, suited. Still wondering about his time card situation.
Yeah. Something to keep an eye on.
Ole?
Dukic, yeah, not going to wonder. Jack 7 suited, how to play from this point forward. Just let's see what's what.
And all of these guys able to put pressure on each other now. Very shallow stack game. About 25 minutes left on this level.
Almost
Lines
chip
will
winner.
go up to,
Yeah.
I'm going to guess.
I needed one-time bank in previous hand.
I was going to say 6-12,
Yeah, I was
but
believing
do we
you.
even have the
Close to
chips
shove.
to have a 6-12 level? Oh, we probably
What's
do.
Close to shove, but fold. 7-8 suited or something like that.
Well, with this slot, one never knows.
You would jam that faster, I guess.
Not to suggest that they've been sitting back, grinding away at one another with min-raise and limps.
No, it's not become shallow because of the lack of action.
Yeah, good point. Well, there'll be no lack of action as an ace-king surfaces on the shores of Dukic.
$7.5.
Half his stack. This has become thematic across the span of the last few times in which he has gotten involved. You know, there's kind of a sigh there that suggests that maybe Dukic would have preferred some action. Certainly he is happy to spin with that particular hand, but let's not overlook that raise and take it 3 straight times. And these are big pickups, 2.5 million a pop. Provided that you're not in the blind yourself, and even then it's 2 million.
Yeah, there's only 120 bigs in play right now. So when you pick up 2.5 bigs, you're picking up 2% of the chips in play.
Now another one that could pique Dukic's interests.
Yeah, this definitely feels like just a normal raise spot, to be honest. He's gone with these large half stack sort of bets. He's going with a bigger size here, 2.4x. Can get through Svesco and can get through Tala as well. So another takedown. Dukic now up over the 20 big blind mark for the first time in a little while.
4th occasion on which he's picked up uncontested chips. Pace of play has also been mercifully brisk of late.
Yeah, very quick.
Ace on the button for the Serb.
Going to use this blocker to try and get one through. So far, so good. And, well, suitedness for Oleg. Not enough.
David, if you ever wanted to know what your sons would look like if after they've asked for a Christmas gift, you looked them straight in the face and said, no, Santa won't bring it, consult the screen. It's just animus, bitter, almost resentful affect. But really, he has nothing to be upset about as we've observed his ascent. One that he's earned. By the way, this isn't a sun run.
At the start, I made biggest
Certainly
mistake
picking
ever.
up the aces against the ace-king was a part
In
of the
the beginning,
equation,
when
but
he
the
had
manner in
ace-king
which he played it also was
with
helpful.
hearts on
And then the
10,
queen
8,
6
8.
suited, which is far from aces against
Such
ace-king.
stupid call.
Interesting spot now for Atala. He's able to raise into the 2 shortest stacks here. Oleg, I think he's 11 bigs, and Dukic we know is maybe just around the 20 big blind mark. May chance a little steal. Indeed he does. 2.5x. Not sure I love the decision to go bigger than min here. Just sort of costs you more when it doesn't get the job done. Doesn't allow you to play a pot against Dukic. You can put the most amount of post-flop ICM pressure on if he was to make a light call. But does get a few more folds and does maybe simplify things in some scenarios. That might be what he's looking for here. A few simple decisions. A few easy situations. Yeah, Svesco really not giving away how different his situation is from, say, 2 hours ago where he sat on 6 million and
No.
not 46 million,
If I
whatever it is
blurred
now.
out the stack in front of him, you wouldn't be able to tell me what circumstance he was in. I think that's useful.
Nice use of the King 6 suited here. I like this from Svesco.
And the reason that we invoke these sorts of hands as upfront opens.
Blocker. The King is a good blocker to bet here. The suitedness when you're called by the big blind or maybe even someone else just gives you more boards where you can proceed aggressively. He can raise fold against everybody here, so he doesn't have to worry about pricing himself in. Even Oleg with 11 bigs has enough to make him fold pretty comfortably. And it's just his way of pushing everyone around a little bit.
Sure.
Also the spot where Atala has the other 3 players to act behind him.
Push the button.
So maybe the least likely place from which he could get 3-bet by the one guy who can pressurize him. Speaking of Atala, he's missing in action here.
I don't think he's surrendering the stack,
Do you think he gets back in time?
David. Yeah.
There he is.
Even if he didn't get back in time, that one was not of any interest to him. Jack 9 offsuit. Dukic found one that doesn't work.
And who now down to just 8 million?
Ask me why. Spots like this where he thinks he's got a playable hand in the small blind, and based on prior experience, perhaps we feel as though Svesco has proven himself to be just too much. Lays it down.
How much you count?
That's a playable hand, David.
Yeah.
This is 10. This is 10.
Thank you. We have same basically.
You what?
Same.
Not same. You have 15, like 16.
Oh yeah, yeah, right. I mean,
Oleg, after a period of quiet, now gets a little gift from the poker gods. He will be conscious of the fact that who is shallower, and maybe that gives him every reason to just ship this one in rather than min raise. But oh, if you want to win this tournament, and I'm sure he really does, you got to use these queens to max effect. You got to take a little chance with them in the hopes that maybe your opponent in the big blind could call and flop top pair when you have an over pair. Unfortunately for Oleg, no action, but he does pick up the price of another lap of the track.
17?
16-5, 17-2, something like that.
What's it going to take to break this gridlock in terms of five-handed action right now, where it does feel like it's just anti-bust-out chemistry?
Yeah, there's almost like a pressure cooker effect right now. I feel like we're incrementally raising the temperature on these shorter stacks now. Dukic, okay, 17 big blinds, not super short anymore. Oleg, 12 bigs, definitely short. Who, 7 bigs, very short. Something's got to give surely at some point soon.
I mean, if the players aren't going to allow it to happen, the blinds will force them into that spot. But only an hour at a time. The craziest thing to think about right now for me, David, and it's been proven by the number of different chip leaders we've seen, some of whom have been the short stacks prior to enjoying that role, is any of these 5 could win it. Truly, any of these 5 could win it.
Without doubt. I think Oleg may be the only player who didn't have the chip lead at any point, but he was certainly up there amongst them for a while.
I dare anyone to suggest that he can't win it. As we see David Hu recognizing that the ace-8 with just 8 million is a worthy candidate to get most, let's call it over half of his chips in there. And in doing so, he will pick up the blinds. And moves like that versus the all-in, right? I think that's when you know a man is thinking on a kind of different level. I'm not suggesting it's rocket science, but, you know, it just establishes him as the pro that we see him to be.
Yeah, committing himself obviously in any heads-up scenario, but giving himself a way to get away if a lot of action were to come after him and, you know, ladders were potentially forthcoming. Still 5. Temperature rising here in the Crystal Cove. Atala may be looking to add a degree.
I win.
Button jam here from Oleg.
He gets to
He
jam into the...
approaches
Oh, sorry,
that
Ali.
10 big blind threshold himself. No apology necessary.
You know how much you have?
Huh?
You know how much you started?
This is 10. Exactly 10 million. Plus this.
Yeah, he gets to shove into the 2 short stacks who he can put the most pressure on, but this is just too much hand for Hu. Just an absolute mandatory call here.
It's been some time since we played one of these. An all-in and a call here at the featured table where David
Don't
Hu
jinx it.
Bet coin flip.
says don't jinx it. 3-2 favorite in a 20 million chip pot. So far, so good. 8-8-9. 6 outs to dodge, as it were. Pre-flop. Turn. A 3. Things remain nice and clean. Don't sully or soil my dreams is what David Hu was thinking.
Oh,
Good luck, guys.
would you believe it?
Open it.
Not like this. Oh. Not like this.
A good
No
punch
need to count, yes?
on the river. No need to count. Indeed, Oleg, the covering
Because less than
stack. David Hu, well,
Yeah.
what can you say? A weaker player would have been eliminated at an earlier point. A lesser man would be at the bar on his 3rd or 4th round by now. David Hu survived, lived by his wits in so many spots, refused to put his last chips in bad, or even flipping on so many occasions, eventually succumbs in 5th.
Earning $142,400 for his efforts, adding to the $1.14 million he had earned across that over 10-year career, flying the Dutch flag. And the most decorated of the remaining lot, 5-handed,
I think it's
has
quite
been
interesting.
shown the exit,
for
and
sure.
there is nobody that would have sat on that stack that would have enjoyed a different outcome at the end there.
Not for him.
No, that king-queen hand from earlier did a bit of damage, but could have done all the damage. He got away from that one. Svesko robbed him blind on a couple of occasions. Credit to Svesko for that more than anything against Hu. And then, yeah, just became kind of expensive to play poker here. 10, 15 hands went by, blinds went through Hu. He got short. Took a great spot there with the ace-10. Absolutely right to do so. Obviously was ahead, but a cruel river sealed his fate.
So then, The very first hand of four-handed play, one in which
Wait a
Oleg
second.
now
I'll count.
has a loosened collar.
12.
22 million plus to start this one, puts 2 million of it.
It's 20. If I do it all correctly, 12, 17.
Okay, okay.
Out in front,
Ah, sorry. Okay.
Svesko,
It should be like that.
customer with the 10-7. He pips the 2 9s on a queen 10-6 board, and no sooner does Oleg pick up chips than he rates to be passing some over to the serve. Turn card, providing gut shot straight draws to both parties. Double gutter for the 9s. So here we are. Pot up to 11 million.
There it is.
The jack on the river. Sweet relief for the 9s as the 10s hung in there for the 3 million.
And once again, it's happened on this final table. In the blink of an eye, 2 hands have changed everything. Oleg, 1 card away from being absolutely dismantled. I think he would have been left with a big blind. Is now looking at a very favourable situation where he has a straight and likely to pull in at least this 11 million, maybe a little bit more, to see his stack rise to around about the 30 million mark once again.
6.5.
Nothing Svesko can do really in this spot. His opponent obviously can have ace king. Big range advantage as this board runs out in a pretty nasty way for the 10-7.
So Svesko properly puts his hand into the muck when it was no longer good, as Oleg surges. Let's see what he does now that he's got a bit more equipment with which to work. David, you know, we observed Svesko cuffed, shackled, forced to kind of keep himself out of the way with the short stack, and then once he got himself some depth,
Sorry.
Svijemo kosu, bre.
really came out of his shell, so to speak. Now Oleg perhaps with an opportunity to do the same.
Interesting decision to use this Jack 8 as a raise. Did anticipate him limping in with this one. Wow, he's run into it here. Atala looking down at the ladies will almost certainly charge Svesko to realize equity with that Jack 8. One feels like there is a nice little non-oil in size here available to him in position, maybe something around about the 9 million mark. Be a nice way to induce some weaker holdings that still feel like they're good. Maybe even induce a few light ones too. Oh. Well, I don't love that, to be honest.
No, he just ripped it right in there, and there certainly felt like there were many sizings available to him that would have been a bit more fruitful in the end than just taking the pre-flop open.
Yeah, as it happened, that Jack 8 not going to stick around to any size, but...
Yeah, not against Jack 8 specifically, but just on average.
Exactly. You gotta take these gifts, try and turn them into something.
Same time, I can't fault anybody who has aversions toward having to play a pot against Vesco deeper than pre-flop, as we saw what happened to David Hu when he had to do just that.
Yeah.
Granted, that was out of position, but nevertheless, point remains.
Hard for Atala here in the small blind. He obviously is looking down at an ace. We see he's got the same hand as Dukic, but there isn't really a non-all-in sizing available to him that doesn't commit him, and Dukic won't be light all that often from the cutoff, given what's behind him. I like that fold unbalanced by Atala. Don't think you want to get out of line there.
Just genuinely curious, is anybody interested in looking at any numbers ICM or not?
Oh, asking the question.
Fine, but just asking. Because it's no chops. Okay,
Silence.
sure. Just
Very
asking.
reasonable question to ask.
Okay.
Obviously, four-handed. These guys playing for an awful lot of money right now, and now are very shallow overall. This game really is entering into a cards are going to decide a lot from here on out.
Yeah, and listen, these guys aren't here to allow luck to be the primary influence over outcome, and I don't think there was anything unreasonable about Dukic wanting to at least explore what the numbers look like for everyone in terms of an ICM chop at this point. But no chops was the pushback that he received. Unclear who delivered it, by the way. Was it Atala or was it Oleg? Oleg? Talia?
In no uncertain terms, it was Oleg. I think does fancy himself to be the best player of those remaining. And I agree with that. I did think it was him and Hu, maybe with the most final table experience, most likely to navigate.
I respect the confidence. It's not misplaced, as 2.5 million appears to be slightly misplaced in front of this 3-5 offsuit from the button, but it'll work out.
So you understood what he was asking for, no? He was asking
As
if
we
can,
approach
like,
the
see
last couple of minutes
ICM
of this
numbers
level,
in
and
view.
I know we'll be taking a very short
okay,
break.
okay, I see.
What did you say?
Not now. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay. I don't care.
Okay, okay, no problem.
No.
Now, the fact that Oleg leaned over to Atala, David, and inquired as to whether or not Michel understood what Dukic was asking, and then got verification that indeed Atala did, and again he said not now, suggests that it was not Oleg who pushed back on the ICM chop, and perhaps it was Atala, much maybe to the surprise of the remaining three.
Yeah, it was certainly Oleg who said something like, well, that was met with, silence when he threw out the question, which of course was his own silence, but maybe
Really
pointing to
referring to Atala's lack of engagement or response.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I would think that, not to take anything away from Atala, but this murderer's row he finds himself in with a tremendous amount of money. We're talking over $1 million still left to claim. That he might be well served to at least explore what the payout is. And not well served is ace-8 on a 9-9 deuce board that smacks Svesko for trips here.
Nej, det går not now.
5.5 million in the middle. And the min Raise open is followed through upon with a 2 million chip bet. One that does not want any patronage whatsoever.
So much hand here for Svesko. I think he can play this one slow. Nothing to fear on 9-9 deuce.
Obviously, Atala's bet very much would have appreciated acquiescence from Svesko. Instead, we see the sticky Serb with good reason to adhere to this particular board. Calling and checking. These are the forks in the road for me, David, with these ace-8s where you feel like maybe another little barrel here could prove fruitful from time to time. Temptation resisted, though, by Michel. And now that we've checked back a board run out such as this, when the bet comes forward, as we assume it will, from Svesko into 9.5, the bluff catching calculus will take shape.
6.5.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think it'll be a large enough bet because really he's going to target pocket pairs that opened here, that decided to check back turn to exercise a little pocket control on the off chance that his opponent had a 9 and then would happily snap off a bet such as this one. Maybe even a good ace high would be tempted. Ace 8. Don't want to say it's not tempting, because clearly, judging by Atala's body language, he is somewhat intrigued, but I think this one can be let go on
he's
balance.
Not going to be worried about being up against a bigger ace, so we can rule that out. And the board texture on the flop is so dry that really it's a matter of, was this just a float designed to find out whether or not I had a second barrel in me, and once I didn't, then we set ourselves up to bluff the river on a run out such as this, with the range advantage, with the ace-8 appropriately laying it down.
Yeah, and with the stacks distributed the way they are, pretty reasonable that Svesko might flat a small pair there and take an identical line, so not just the 9x that he has to be worried about.
Well, it's break time here, as only 4 remain here on the 4th day of this Merit Retro Series main event. I mean, just incredible what we've borne witness to here. Michel Atala, currently the chip leader, took a little hit there going into the end of that frame, but what a delightful frame it was, David.
It was a delightful frame, but something interesting has just happened. 2 things I want to really make you guys at home aware of is it was a quiet phase from Oleg, but he remains very, very dangerous and obviously just got that little spin up, courtesy of the King River and obviously the pot right after it. He's a dangerous player and one to watch. The biggest point I want to make, though, is Atala, a player who has been the most in line, I would say, over the course of this. Now finds himself with the chip lead, a position where he can now get out of line, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think we've just seen him switch gears. And while he did it, he threw out that line. I don't know whether there was a communication issue or whether he knew exactly what he was doing. But that line of, not now. I might do a deal, but not now with 4 left. Maybe with 3 left. Maybe in a little while. Well, what a moment for him to say something like that and then drop the hammer, change gears, start going after these blinds more quickly. And everyone's thinking, well, if I get to 3-handed, maybe we can do business. I don't want to be the next one to go.
Yep.
That will be a disaster. Very interesting and
Yeah.
very veterinary, very much a move of a veteran, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I think that was a very cute play.
Could be something cunning afoot, no doubt, for Michel Atala. A break, of course, is afoot right now. You saw the players making their way for the exits. Just temporarily, of course. They will be back to play for $567,000 as the on-tap payout right now here at this Retro Series main event, a whopping $191,000, and of course $257,900. That's the jump we get to if we can last to the podium. So then, David and I will step aside briefly, and James Dempsey, I believe, will be coming in to relieve you, my good friend, and we may not see you again. It all depends.
Oh no, hang on, wait, hang on, no. I don't want to leave.
You
This has been
demand
amazing.
to
I don't
be
wanna,
here.
Don't. No, you're gonna have to shepherd's cook me off the stage.
Well, listen, you take it under advisement. We will take you to a break. When we return, more coverage here of this Retro Series main event. Stay close.
Very small bet. Panka would probably raise and juice. Action now on Panka, who, if he bets and gets raised, may put a lot of draws into Dukic's range. And look, these two hands are just massive. Anyway, what is going on? Okay, here we go.
Okay, but a card that isn't going to cause any concern for Panka, so therefore makes it even more likely now that his chips will find the middle by the end of the hand.
Yeah, and with it straightening up a bit, Dukic got to do his own betting now. Maybe not even a particularly small sizing. Half pot, perhaps.
.2 in there. I guess there are a lot of draws on there, so sizing can be big, and
Yeah, it's even bigger than half, yeah.
That does make sense, right? Those are the 7x's, even the 10x's, the 5x's, diamonds. Does Panka now, having check back flop, just call this? And then look to call kind of all the good rivers, or can he just spring a trap now, given we've got an ICM scenario on our hands, being 7 left on a final table? Because he wants to deny equity. Get a spot where he can have some bluffs, for sure. He does go for the all-in, unsurprising really. Dukic with the snap. And Panka will get the very bad news. He's drawing to 2.
Oof, well, once we saw that flop, we sort of figured out what was very likely to happen. Not as many chips got in on that flop as we expected, but they all got in here on the turn. And
Yeah.
poor old Dominic Panka, a wry smile. He's going to hit the rail.
He is out in 7th. Somewhat doubt out of the tournament after that flop. David flopping top pair against the trips.
Oh.
He will pick up 95,900 for his efforts as we send off perhaps on top and has position on Atala, the other big stack. The rest all 15 million and below, so it's pretty snug for 4. Atala, though, perhaps the one feeling the most pressure as the second biggest stack. Yeah. They're like London buses, these hands.
That they're probably too expensive.
Ooh, wow. Ooh. With a decision against a super wide range from the button.
Crucial factor in this one is the presence of a shorter stack still, and
He goes for it. Who does blast it in?
Dukic, what?
Snap
A
call.
sun run.
Dukic is just like, yep,
What the fuck?
I've always got it. But 27% of the time, who's going to have it? It's not over yet.
And
this-
Oleg about to get another ladder.
Wow, yeah. Unbelievably. Well, hold on a minute.
Or is he? Well, that's 12 outs twice.
Flopping the flush draw. This is David, who turns the diamond. Dukic shakes his head. Every time he gets a big stack, he seems to lose some of it. This time, nothing wrong, of course.
No.
Was in great shape to get himself up to what's
I want to say it was on day 2 where he first caught our attention.
Yep.
Now then, Dukic, who certainly has caught our attention on more than one occasion here. There's been tremendous amounts of heroism coming from him, sometimes to great effect, other times to the sort of biggest charitable contribution in the history of televised poker, I believe, was the way he described it.
And he had pocket fives that time too.
Well, let's see if he can have a better outcome than he did that time from the button.
So, who and the short stack Svesco players in the blinds. Action still on Dukic. He threw out a time card there, so we flipped the camera over, which I actually quite like as a bit of cinematography, because clearly that's the view Dukic has right now of those two players, and is thinking to himself, okay, one of them's got quite a lot of chips, and one of them's got very few. He's decided to just lean all the pressure on Who here, with effectively a 30 big blind shoved to him, and then obviously a shorter stack spot. Now what's interesting about that is because he was willing to risk 30 against Who, Svesco may think this ace-7 suited has shriveled up a little bit.
Would be understandable for him to think that, obviously. Boy, this does feel like a lot of hand on average against Dukic in particular. David, who we have to imagine isn't in need of a pocket pair or a big ace in order to make a move like this.
Well, he does need a real hand though. Like, he needs a small pair, he needs a decent ace, probably a suited one. If it's not,
That one there, Ollie.
Welcome back to continuing coverage. It is very late local time right now. One cannot be faulted for missing the button there. And I'm not talking about the dealer button, just the audio button that opens up the microphones. Ali Najad now joined by James Dempsey. And James, we're down to it. 4 players remaining. $191,000 is the on-tap payout. Mentioned it just before we went to break. $258,000, let's call it a whopping $67,000 pay jump is upon us right now, with still $567,000 up top. And if you thought the blinds were big before, $500,000, $1 million, they're going up yet again as the stacks will thin out even further.
Oh yeah, we're at the 501 milli, the big level.
That's where we were. You thought that was a big level. 612, I believe.
Oh, well, we're going to 612.
Is where we're going right now. I mean, just it's been an incredible final table thus far.
Yeah.
One worthy of those who have actually made the investment to follow along across 4 full days of this main event. We picked it up at day 2, day 3, day 4, and some of the names, it must be said, that caught our attention earlier on find themselves here right now vying for the title.
Yeah, some of the biggest names in Merit Poker and some of the biggest names from 2 days ago on this very stream are the ones that are fighting it out.
Yeah,
Ollie.
Indeed they are. Currently chief among them is Michel Atala. He's been the beneficiary of a few spots with the Lebanese flag flying tall.
Yeah, I mean, he had a fantastic start to the final. Obviously, he won a pot you weren't privy to, but I'm sure you heard about, where he had ace-king and the king of hearts and made the backdoor nut flush, got paid off by Nenad Dukic, and from there really didn't look back.
By the way, Dukic still in the hunt right now, 4th in terms of chip counts, as we send you back down to the action. Long ago was that shot. In fact, we're closer toward experiencing it as sun up than we are as sun down here at the Marriott Crystal Cove Hotel, Resort and Casino. The backdrop for this final table. And there are the final 4. Mentioned Dukic at the bottom, Atala at the top. Svesko and Nataliev running 2-3 as mid-pack players.
Yeah, it's actually funny if you look at the players, how they came into this final table. Obviously, Volkov came in as the chip leader, out in 6th. You had David Hu coming in 2nd in chips, gone. Oh, sorry, 3rd in chips, gone. Panka 4th in chips, gone. And it is the likes of the short stacks that came in. They're the ones still with us, Ali.
David Hu, by the way, really unmerciful exit for him. King deuce against the ace 10. It all looks so good. King on the river.
Maybe later.
And it is so heartbreaking when you consider all that you've endured, all the big laydowns you made.
Oleg, by the way, I mean, wow. Was down to 9 blinds, got a jam through, got a couple of 3-bit jams, albeit with it through. Suddenly found a bit of playability. When I left, this man was ruling the roost. Been a bad 2 hours, clearly.
No longer the case.
Oops, sorry. It's wrong.
Whoa, Spesko, he's found some chips.
Oh, yeah.
He was shortest for a long time, shortest when I left still.
Took aces up against ace-king. Dukic was on the wrong end of that exchange.
That'll help.
Obviously, walks will help as well. Not that Atala requires help. As the boss stack at present. Interesting thing happened just prior to the break, James. In Dukic asking whether or not anybody was interested in taking a look at the ICM chop. And there was assumptions that it was Oleg who promptly was averse.
No.
And it would make sense considering his experience level and confidence that we imagine that he might have here four-handed. And yet, it came to light that it was Atala who suggested, not now.
All right, all right. Well, let's
Slightly cheeky.
see how it goes, huh?
Yeah,
Interesting.
we thought so.
I like it. So,
Let's
hey,
go.
you guys aren't good enough. I'm going to run you over.
I don't know if that was the inference, but maybe he just wanted to see if things won't come into focus more favorably for him.
Yeah, deals are a funny thing. Yeah, you're just feeling good. Sometimes you want to keep it running. Maybe you lose a couple of pots, then you might look at the numbers. Whilst you're feeling great, you think you've got your opponents, then let's see some cards. I like it. I have to say, I've very rarely done deals in my life as well.
Well, that's because you haven't been deep enough, James, often enough to,
Wow, you went there.
to do a deal. Don't be sensitive, Dempsey. It's okay. You know,
I should have done more. I think I turned down the. Oh, that's nice. Getting a little massage in the booth. I turned some down. Decided not to look at numbers before.
how'd that work out?
Sometimes well, sometimes poorly,
So on average, okay.
but probably should look at them. You know, it's
Well, people
It's a
look
lot of
at them
money.
differently now than once upon a time. The ICM chop math.
oh wow, oh wow. Here we go. Oleg with the boots, not for the first time in this final, and Atala with a very nice looking King Jack suited on the button.
Yeah, Nataliev's not looking for a deal with this one.
Yeah. Should we do look at numbers there, Atala? Options here off what is
6 million.
20 blinds. He does go for the really small one, the Inducey. The
Oh, Dukic.
Oh, no.
Short stack with 2 jacks. We know at
Oh.
least 15 million is going to be put forward.
poor Dukic.
And actually, this is good for Atala
Yeah, it
because
is.
the 15 comes in, the King Jack goes away.
Now, before I write the obituary for Dukic, this is how his final got started. He found jacks in the big blind when the button and small blind went all in. Won a huge 3 of all in. It looks like his final will be bookended with the hooks.
So perhaps Jacks giveth and Jacks taketh away, as the presence of one busy in Atala's hand obviously is very
25.
poor. The path to a set halved in terms of probability. And oops. Cold start to the back end of the break
Oof.
for Dukic.
Dukic with just the case jack to hit. You know, the jack of hearts was marked. Oleg, incredible.
I promised you a cooler, so I'm sorry.
Incredible run. He said, and that'll do it.
No need to sorry.
Club coverage and top set. Jacks drawing dead.
Yeah, the old 0%.
So, wow. A wrap of the Feltis, 4 full days of blood, sweat, and tears come to an end oh so quickly for Nenad Dukic. Fourth place money will go home with him, but you can feel the disappointment. $191,100 richer. That obviously will be a tremendous addition to his career totals, which were just $209,000 coming into this one, and this supersedes his best live cash by a wide margin. $68,000 and change prior to that pickup there. But the real pickup is that of Nataliev, as he now is just $500,000 behind Atala, no longer alone atop the totem pole here.
Yeah, and I'm just still in shock. You said Dukic's career is about 200K in live earnings, and the way this man played, I am shocked by that. Clearly an online beast.
And you could see a moment shared there between himself and his compatriot, Svezko. Two Serbs.
Oh,
What's that?
Went to it. Went to it.
yeah. Levels decrease, but not until heads up, Ollie.
Yeah.
I think that was the question they were having answered there. And it's still three-way and a very even three-handed battle, Ollie.
I don't want to make a meal of it, James, but I am curious as to whether or not one of these players inquired about when the levels will be shortened, because one might assume that a little fatigue or a little bit of, stamina issues are afoot in that seat.
We're way over 12 hours today. They were over 12 hours yesterday. Wouldn't surprise me.
Atala kicks three-handed action off by opening once more, this time with considerably less kit in the form of King 6 offsuit. And this is one big blind, no small blind out there. We did lose Dukic. What would have been his small blind this hand. Of course, cannot skip the blind, so Svezko plays back and stings promptly.
The composition of this final table has changed so much in the 2 hours since I was gone. Svezko was one of the shortest. Oleg,
You want to
same.
ask for numbers?
Sure, why not?
You want?
Yeah, we can just ask. And then,
Well.
like, we can ask for a small break. Ask
You
for
go on the
numbers.
floor?
We go early. Maybe they are going to look at numbers.
So then perhaps it was an honest, not now, let's wait, now that we're down to three-handed. And the stacks are fairly evenly distributed. James Atala open to calling the floor over and asking, just inquiring as to what the numbers would be. As you see the way things are shaping up, 43, 41, and 37 million respectively, with Oleg now the chip leader, then Michel, then Darko. We come back to the desk, and I'm just doing the math right now. There's over 1.25 million in total payout still remaining right now. And obviously that ICM chop will smooth things out considerably for these three. At a point where the stacks are only going to grow shallower. Once we get to heads-up levels, we'll be, truncated. And so we don't want to leave things to fate and luck so much with life-changing money out there, right?
Especially, I think, when the stacks are so similar. It's very easy for any one of these players to come third. It's a little different sometimes. One guy's got 60% of the chips in play. The other got 20 each. The 60% is like, I ain't coming third, boys. Let's keep playing. But when it's that bit more even,
Sure.
very easy for one of these guys to come out
Yeah.
effectively last now. So no surprise that they're having a look, Ollie, and I do gather it'll be a few minutes whilst they crunch these numbers.
Yeah, so then with those few minutes, we will send you to yet another break, perhaps if you weren't able to grab a snack and a beverage, or you grabbed the beverage but not the snack, whatever it is, you have a few more minutes to get your nourishment going, as we will then nourish your eyes with the finale here at this Merit Retro Series main event. Keep it close, back in a few.
The diamond! Dukic shakes his head. Every time he gets a big stack, he seems to lose some of it. This time, nothing wrong, of course.
No.
Was in great shape to get himself up to what's...
I want to say it was on day 2 where he first caught our attention.
Yep.
Now then, Dukic, who certainly has caught our attention on more than one occasion here. There's been tremendous amounts of heroism coming from him, sometimes to great effect, other times to the sort of biggest charitable contribution in the history of televised poker, I believe, was the way he described it.
And he had pocket fives that time too.
Well, let's see if he can have a better outcome than he did that time from the button.
So, who and the short stack Svesco players in the blinds. Action still on Dukic. He threw out a time card there, so we flipped the camera over, which I actually quite like as a bit of cinematography, because clearly that's the view Dukic has right now of those two players, and is thinking to himself, okay, one of them's got quite a lot of chips and one of them's got very few. He's decided to just lean all the pressure on Who here, with effectively a 30 big blind shoved to him, and then obviously a shorter stack spot. Now what's interesting about that is because he was willing to risk 30 against 2, Svesco may think this ace-7 suited has shriveled up a little bit.
Would be understandable for him to think that, obviously. Boy, this does feel like a lot of hand on average against Dukic in particular. David, who we have to imagine isn't in need of a pocket pair or a big ace in order to make a move like this.
Well, he does need a real hand though. Like, he needs a small pair, he needs a decent ace, probably a suited one, if it's not super strong.
Well, then how
And
do you
then maybe a king, queen, king, jack, something like that.
So against that whole range that you described, the real hands, quote unquote, how do you feel that ace-7 suited performs on average? Adequately well to dig in?
I think you might be right on the edge
cusp,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. I think, and that's what, look, we've seen him burn 2 time banks. Credit to Svesco. He recognizes exactly that problem. He's going to be disgusted if he sees a hand like ace-8 suited. If he sees a hand like ace-4 suited, well, he actually ends up chopping with that hand, I think, almost half the time. So that's not exactly an amazing result. Then you think about the times where you're up against the pocket pair and you're basically just flipping and hoping. When it's the small pocket pair, that is, it could be the pocket 8s, and then you're in big trouble. And then if you are up against king, queen, king, jack, or indeed a bigger ace, bigger ace is the real worry, I suppose. He has the least ICM pressure on him, but also he's been a very good cockroach, it must be said, and good cockroaches get their money in first, not second.
Yeah. That said, every orbit 6-handed costing him $2 million, and ultimately he decides this is as good as it might get for me. Yeah. And I don't think he'll be feeling too terribly with 2 overs to this underpair of Dukic. He'll play for 16.6. There's a 7. Just what the doctor ordered. Three on the turn. And the payment begins to get cut out by Dukic as the red 5 is all Svesco needed to avoid, and he's done it. And that is a double whammy for Dukic as the chip leader, David, both because Svesco now is up and over the 10 big blinds to 20 plus bigs, but then also because he's taken.
And probably does feel upstuck because there are certainly scenarios where he would see himself with half the chips in play right now too. I think Atala and Svesco are literally playing the tourneys of their lives right now. And, you know, here we go again.
The hand of your life. Not long removed from the double for Svesco as you were showering praise.
Yeah, all that in mind, I still feel like Oleg and Hu are the players who've played virtually error-free poker, really clinical.
Ooh.
Oh dear. Oh dear for Dukic.
Ace King. Could be a very expensive second altercation for Dukic against Svesco. Play 16.2 effective stacks.
This tournament is about to be turned on its head. This is an extraordinary development. I will admit to something I wouldn't normally do. I said to James Dempsey, the one person I haven't really spoken about throughout that first frame is Svesco, because he's really given us nothing to talk about.
Well, he's been sitting around for the most part, right?
He's about to become the chip leader of this tournament.
Don't you dare do that. David, there's always 5 cards to come. We've seen horrendous beats over the course of our careers. No conclusions are foregone when it comes to poker. That we know. So here is the lighting of the fuse as the 3-bet to 5.5 million is just leaving Svesco ecstatic. Not that you know it from looking at him. But on the inside, it is somersaults here. Is he going to lay rope? It looks that way.
Wow.
I mean, it feels like he certainly had the latitude to come with something clicky that Dukic couldn't step away from, and that's with or without ace-king.
Oh, will you stop?
Oh,
Look
the
at this.
case, ace, and now, suddenly, all the writing is on the wall. And it's going to be arrivederci to 10.7 million of this remaining 22.5 for Dukic. Bar running queen 10. You smell that, David? Something's burning. It's 2.4 million gaming tokens for the time being, with many more that are going to be dropped into the kiln.
Is this napalm in the evening?
Yeah. Apocalypse now for Dukic. The only good news is that he covers Svesco.
And there isn't even a run out that can save him here.
Now he draws dead. And I love the way Svesco hasn't gotten hasty. No reason to do so. Just if Dukic wants to volunteer all the soldiers to the shores of Normandy, then go on and give him an invitation.
Yeah, I feel for Dukic here because I think he's pretty sure his opponent has ace-queen. That feels like the kind of hand that would take this line. I wonder if ace-jack might have got sticky. He might be a tiny bit worried about that.
All right. Let us carry on then, as I'm just mindful of some text messaging that is alluding to the same thing that you and I were paying attention to just before we went to the break, James, and that was conversation out there, three-handed, about a potential chop. Here, day 4 of the Merit Retro Series. Final table upon us, and massive payouts, 1.25 million. Is it going to be distributed? Did they negotiate their way to a chop?
Well, so this I can tell you. They sat down, they looked at the numbers, they all liked the numbers. They decided they were going to leave quite a lot, I believe 100k to play for. And it was like, right, yeah, that's all good. And then Atala said, but we're flipping for that, right? And the other guys were like, what? And he goes, well, I'll do the deal, but we just flip for the 100k, we're just all in. The other guys were like, no, obviously we're going to play for it. And so he went, no deal, carry on.
Oh my. So suddenly their unwillingness to flip for 100,000 of the total 1.25, which 1.15 of it was going to get divvied up properly via ICM, has left them gambling for far more than they would have if they would have simply accepted the flip. So then, Atala proving to be a spanner in the works, as you guys like to say.
But I love that. He's just like, yeah, but we are just going to flip for that. We're not going to play.
I mean,
Man wants to gamble. I love it.
You got to respect it. And I do want to say, depending on how things shake up for the other two as a result of that aversion toward playing in a flippy manner for the 100,000, maybe they'll come to regret that decision, James. Only time will tell, as we are playing 600,000, 1.2 million here at this final table right now, and we are playing for a pay jump at present that is going to be in full as it was. Just look at it.
Yeah, 160k jump, I believe, right now.
Yeah.
And they always take out that $250,000 and change, right, for the deal before you do the ICM, right? So in effect, they had, what, 460 left to play for, and he was like, all right, we can divvy that up, but let's play for 100. And they've said, we'll just play for the whole lot then. Brilliant. I love it. I'd love to see how deep they got into that negotiation before he said, well, again, but look how close they are in chips. No wonder he just wanted to flip. It's late, Ollie. It's 3 a.m. These guys have been playing for a very long time. So, we play on, as per usual, for the lot.
If I will be third, I will be also happy.
There you go. The talk continues. If you're third, you'd be happy. $250,000. Why not? Oleg came in short. Makes sense. Svesko, first hand of this resume three-handed play. Completes 9-4 clubs. Atala, at this point, probably must just referred to as the gambler. Checking back, a very nice looking King 5 suited. Lots of good things can happen with that hand.
Nothing really good happening on the Queen 6 deuce board. That doesn't stop Svesko. So he'll pick this one up. So far, so good for those that didn't want to flip for the 100,000. That really does create an interesting storyline once it's all said and done about whether or not somebody made the right decision or the wrong decision in terms of that. But regardless of outcome, James, it obviously needs to be stated that not wanting to flip for the 100 leaves you playing for a much bigger jump just from third to second, and then an even bigger one from second to first. Now, we do reserve the right, potentially, once we get the heads up, to go, hey, buddy, if you want to flip for 100 of it and let's ICM chop the rest, okay. Provided that Atala is part of that heads up equation, which is not a given. But all of this is very much to be determined.
I wonder how much of it Ali relates back to as well. Of course, just the fact this is a 4-day tournament, a prestigious 4-day tournament here at Merit, and they want to walk away with the title too. You can never underestimate how much some players want those titles. And Ali, speaking from personal experience as a man with titles but no money, they're kind of nice. You can't lose them down the years.
Cove.
Atala. Increasing the pot queen, 9 our hearts. Oleg. Calling out the big 8-9. Dominated, but needed player improving on the 3-4-5.
$2.8.
Wow. Oleg. Oh, there's the player flatting the open on that board. Deciding he has a little bit more of it. Let's have the backdoor diamonds. Just make all the Broadway combos and nearly Broadway combos like Queen 9 fold. He was right. A nice shift in this man because he was having to play so tight earlier because of his chip stack. Now,
It is such a nice feeling to just be let out of the box. Be given the kind of chips with which to show a different approach to
it
the
was
game.
funny because David had been waxing lyrical about him in a frame that you two had done together. And then you and I did the frame before the final table where he had to play incredibly tight. So myself and David met on the final. We had completely different perceptions of Oleg and the way he's going to play. Purely down to the two situations he found himself in. And on this final, he's found both situations again. Incredibly tight to start with, and now opening up. Go again, Atala opening button. Oleg with options from the small. Selects the call. And Svesko, ace-king in the big.
How about that?
Timing.
$11.
Look at this 3-bet to 11 million. We
Yep.
always knew it was coming in, and the size, of course, is tethered in part to the fact that you have that straggler in between in Oleg.
Yeah, I like it. We go a bigger sizing with a lot of our bluffs.
About my step.
You want to do it with some of your good hands as well. Dissuade those peels, and Ali, it's late. You may just hope someone's over it. But he picks it up.
That would be the anticipated outcome. Now, James, I know it's a bit awkward to leave you alone, not only because clearly you need your hand held by me when you're in this booth, but also because I don't want to allow you to soak up all of the delights of three-handed play. But I am being summoned beyond the borders of the booth, albeit briefly. Will return shortly. In the meantime, I trust that you'll be able to shepherd us through this next few minutes. Promise me? Pinky swears?
Ali, it's all right. I'm used to being left alone.
Oh, no, James, don't get depressive here. This is a celebratory moment. We've got a lockup of 257,900. As Oleg takes that one down, I step out. We'll be back shortly.
Do as you
Hang tight.
need, my man. Do as you need. Well, maybe it makes sense. Only 3 players left in the tournament. Why do we need 2 people in here? If you're just tuning in, you've missed a hell of a day. 28 became 9, and those 9 have become 3. This man, one of the shortest to start the final table, up to 44 million. You may think that sounds like a lot, but they're all pretty even. Well, Atala certainly the one stretching in the wrong direction, now down to just 30 million. That still is so close. First goes open, timed well, 10-6 offsuit, running into the 9-3 of Oleg. Start the final. Svesco had 9.3 million in chips. Oleg, 9 million. And Atala, 12 million. They are the three that remain. The 19 mil stack, the 27 mil stack, the 250 million chip stacks, all gone. Chip lead changed hands multiple times in this one to get us down to this spot. Oleg from the small has a little bit of concern now, out of position against the
3,800,000.
other 40 million plus stack. See that they're so even within a couple of blinds. Within blind, pardon me, way within a blind. These two just really don't want to get it in. And Oleg knows that. Svesco knows that. Oleg, therefore, coming for big raise with big card, little card. Svesco, two medium connectors, is going to look in position. This is the point I make about Oleg's life being pretty difficult. No, not so difficult on that board. The ace, 3, 4. King high still rates to be best here. Very hard for Svesco to have too much 3x or 4x. Can have some ace-x, but the biggest of that certainly going to work in as 3 bets. So he should feel pretty comfortable on this board. And of course, has that gut shot to the wheel as backup. Small bet gets the job done. One of those bets where he knows he's nearly always betting into a worse hand, but playability a little difficult with that one if you were to check. Allow the 7-8 or any other hand to catch up on the turn. Continuing to move the aggression. 9-6 suited from the button. Way good enough, and well, timing appears to be on as Metallo looks down at Jack Deuce off. Another hand that was going to play particularly well. His best serve with a fold, and Oleg breaching the mythical 50 million chip mark. As far as I know, the first to do it. 50, 122 in play. $1,220 players out, just 3 to go. Darko, his best live cash before today, 76,000. He's eclipsed that. That result coming just under a year ago in Malta. So a man who likes the med. Here he is raising 9-5 off. on the button. He's going to be met with the full resistance, one imagines, from Atala, who looks down at ace queen in the small. And all in will end it. Atala as well, easily eclipsing his previous best cash. Was 16K in this very venue back in 2019. Only 3 cashes in tournaments, all coming at merit. So one can assume a man who perhaps spends more time in the cash game part of the room. And then of course, Oleg Italiev. 50K, his previous best cash for another man who's set a career best. That also came in this very venue. That was 10th place in the Mediterranean Poker Party main event last year. So final tail bubble that day. Far eclipsed that today as Atala rips ace jack and Oleg's got 8s in the small.
Count, please.
Asks for a count. This may be it. It's open jams. It doesn't reek of super strength, the open jam. Tends to be, well, some ace jack, maybe some ace king even, ace queen, those kind of hands, but also sometimes some of those smaller pairs. You'd expect the big pairs to raise in juice. He did just get a 3-bet jam through. It does make this a little bit harder as he's increased from 20 blinds to nearly 30. But the 8s, I think, are just too much kit.
$32.
I think for the biggest pot of the tournament, if he were to make the call, does have to worry about Svesko, the last remaining player in the hand.
Call.
He makes the call. Svesko gets out the way. Atala at risk. He'll be very happy to see the 2 8s.
Yeah.
The ace jack could have been in worse shape for this size of pot, but 67 million chips in the middle. Oleg is covering. Atala start this final like a freight train, winning pot after pot. It all comes down to this moment for him. 8-7-3, all but dead. Atala needs the running 9-10. And it won't be.
GG, man.
7 on the
I
turn
think there is no need
sends him.
to discuss because they need to left some, 10%.
To the rail, and before
What did you say?
I say no need to discuss.
We play, yeah?
Huh?
We play?
Yeah.
saying
Yeah, okay.
no need to discuss because there is money left to play for anyway. But for now, we will pay homage to Atala. Say he got off to a flyer on this final table, but ultimately it is 3rd place. Good for $257,900 for him, meaning Oleg and Darko will play this one heads up. There's a difference, 150K. But as we're mentioning, the rules stipulate, I believe 100K needs to be left after a deal. So what's the point, was the conversation. We may as well just play on. So play on they will. Oleg was down to 8 blinds with 7 left. Way the shortest. Now he finds himself with a commanding chip lead heads up. So, with no delay, we move straight on to the heads up portion, and it is over 2-1 the lead that Oleg holds. Play with 100 big blinds in play. This one may take a while, guys.
Check.
Mammoth heads-up match in the high roller. More things to be repeated here. Of course, the clock does shorten heads-up. First hand of his encounters. He's both players with a piece. Svesko, the bottom pair, picks up a gut shot on the turn. Oleg flopped top pair, still looking good on this turn. And it is Oleg who's going to lead after the flop checks through. Svesko deciding he has enough. With good reason. Overcard gut shot. Bottom pair and the innocuous offsuit deuce is anything but for Oleg, improving him to 9s up. All those draws on the board missing. One assumes he's going to pick a rather large sizing here.
6,800,000.
He does go for around 3/4. Bit more, in fact. And this one a pretty hard spot for Svesko to call with bottom pair and the 10 of diamonds. You really do need your opponent to have some misdraws, and holding the 10 of diamonds, never ideal. But it's the first hand heads up. Sometimes you just want to keep your man honest. Time chip for now. I suspect we'll piece this together. Decide that we'll have far better candidates to call with than that 4. And well, things we're down to 2 out there. We must be down to 2 in here.
Now, I know there are far better candidates to be putting this headset on next to you, James, but I'm all you've got for the time being, buddy.
Whoa! Whoa, he's turned into a rip.
Hang on.
Whoa. Whoa. He's taken it as a bluff line. He has a 4 blocking some 2 pairs. He has a 10 blocking some straights. But this is out there, and he just walked into Oleg with a super strong hand. Oleg's letting it go.
What did I just step into?
Wow, Ali, you had Svesko limp in and check back that flop. He then called a turn bet, and then against that large sizing on the river, he decided to rip it in. And Oleg folded pretty quickly.
That was a lot of hand to be dumped off. I guess he was just convinced there wasn't a world in which worse than 9s and deuces were ripping on him.
But you've always got to factor in some bluffs, especially on a draw-heavy board like that.
Yep.
I wonder, I made reference earlier, Ali, and I was thinking this when 3-handed play was underway. Oleg was burning through time chips early on. I'm curious how many he has left, because I can't see any there, although they're probably behind the chips.
2.6.
But maybe he just didn't have enough time to think about it.
You know, it's interesting because we talked about that being a potential theme and a real issue if Oleg were to find himself here, as he does, heads up and in a spot such as that one, where really you do want to unpack things, and if you don't have the time,
Yeah,
then all of a sudden.
I mean, I can't even see if Svesko's got any, but I know he spent one on that hand, so I assume he does have a few of them back there somewhere. And is he going for this again? Pardon me, had the hands the wrong way around for a second there. Of course he's going for it again, Ali. He's got ace-queen. But I just would love to know if Oleg has time cards left. Because he folded so quickly there.
I don't believe that he does.
He can't have done, right? 'Cause he would have been using them there.
Yeah, without question.
And this is a point I made earlier, that when you get players with no time cards, you can really flummox them with these complicated lines, these over bets.
I mean, do you think that any of the motivation to take that line by Svesko was in association with that?
I think it's a factor.
If he's thinking about it, it's obviously something to be leveraged to his advantage.
If you know your
without
opponent
doubt.
only has 30 seconds for a decision, I deliberately play very quickly to give them less time to think.
But by the way, I don't see time cards in front of Svesko either, which if that's the case, are they there?
He used one in that hand before check jamming.
So they could be nestled behind the
raise
stack.
jamming. I think they had nestled
Now
behind the
here
stack.
I don't see any at all. Maybe there's some
Yeah, it's
hidden back behind his stack as well, but I just have a tough time.
Let's get a drone up there, Ollie.
Well, we always knew that Darko Svesko, if he was going to meet his end, was going to do it kicking, clawing, scratching. It was never going to be peacefully. And we saw him just there with a very audacious bluff with just a pair of 4s and the 10 blocker.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that he used that hand. Obviously, the 10 helps him make straights, but you also, as I always say, when you're bluffing, you want your opponent to be bluffing, and you want your opponent to have that 10 of diamonds sometimes too. But there we go. Ballsy stuff. I love to see it. No deal heads up, Ali. Obviously, you were out there getting last knockings at the buffet. I heard them ring the bell. It's now or never. And you dashed out. But because they have to leave money to play for anyway, they said, let's just leave it all to play for. Run
I'll
it.
tell you what, they're not regretting that, given that Atala was the man who busted out in third.
Losing a flip, Ali went out. He went out looking for it all. Ace Jack.
He wanted to flip. Let's not forget.
Yeah, exactly.
He got what he wanted. Maybe not in terms of outcome, but in terms of a spin, as we see the pair of 8s for Svesko. Fortunate to hit his side card against the Queen 7. No betting on the King 9-8. Flop nor on the turn. Here we are at the river. Let's see whether or not a pair of 8s feels like betting. We get our answer.
I'm glad he checked that back. Sure, you got a 7, but those straight draws would have bet by now. You can still win sometimes. You are going to face plenty of check calls. I'll leave the trophies on the table. It's there for one of them.
It's also lit up, by the way, which I love. Helping to illuminate the etchings within the crystal obelisk. See, that's the kind of trophy that you can take home in the carry-on. You don't need to be parent. There's some really big things out there, obnoxiously big trophies that get awarded, and what are you going to do? Buy an extra plane ticket for it and stick it next to you on?
They can afford it.
That's a good point. Couple of King X's, very similar in composition here. King 5, King 6. Svesko plays it as a limp.
Maybe that's why everyone likes bracelets. Easy to take home. Ali. Oleg. Increasing matters.
$4.5 million. And when we limp, we're always prepared for the occasions on which the big blind will sense that soft chips are out there looking plush. Gonna hang in there. Is
Yes,
Svesko.
sticky with the King 5 off. Svesco does find a piece of it on that queen 8-5. And the big piece. Ollie, you refer to it as the side card, but every once in a while, the side card becomes the main card.
That's the case here as the queen 8-5 board does deliver the better of the two holdings to Svesco's doorstep. And Oleg is not done telling a story here, James. 5.7 million, roughly half pot, a little north of it, to follow through.
Yeah, Svesco catching that 5, going nowhere just yet. Big pot brewing, Ollie, 21.6. In what is not a particularly, well, not crazily deep heads-up encounter. We are pretty deep.
Nor a very durable holding in terms of this king 5. There's going to be turns that are going to be of no use. And
a lot of turns, Ollie. Bar the deuce 3-4.
oh, that's not one of them.
That one is not one of them. You're quite correct.
How on earth? We find one of the two remaining kings. This is the wettest card. That we can hope for.
Well, Ollie, this is a fun spot. Oh, I'm surprised the Oleg slowed down there, because if your opponent's got a queen, you could really try and build this pot. But he's going to slow it down a little bit here, let some of the gut shots maybe bluff. Svesco with a clear bet, of course, having turned kings up. $10 million half pot is the number. No way Oleg can fold this. His hand's under-repped.
Interesting, Oleg's decision not to barrel the turn after hitting what it must be said is the best card for him.
Yeah, a little bit of pot control and a little bit of trappy. He obviously has an under-repped hand, and that ace is going to change things a little bit here, Ollie. That's a pretty bad card for both to see, really.
So he check calls the 10 million, bringing the pot to 41.6. And there is some ace X that has turned into aces up as played, perhaps.
Yep, there is. And there's not a lot of ace X that's turned into a pair. A lot of that would have just folded the turn. So it's really hard for Svesco to go for max here. If the turn had been one of the low cards,
Oh
we
my
may
gosh.
well have seen a jam and a call, but it's a lot harder now that he does go for it.
Completely undeterred by this development is Svesco, who decides this is not aces up, and that he would have heard from Oleg on the turn with something like ace-queen or ace-king.
Yeah, I think those both, I think the best queen still bets the turn in ace-queen. Having said that, he did check a king. Ace-king, again, I think just bets the turn. So yeah, he's not too worried about aces up. It's just how do you get paid by a king on this run out? And so I don't fault Svesco for going all in and asking for all of it, but you're just very unlikely to get called.
Maybe with very rare occasion, the ace
You win every
8
hand.
is
You
the
win
hand.
every hand.
I win with?
Every hand. You win every hand. Give me one blind.
I try not to.
You understand why I say no dealing? Because when we save 10%, there is no reason in dealing.
Oh, it's absolutely fine. We play until the end.
Yeah, it's been more than absolutely fine in terms of the developments here for Svesco. Do you
Very
detect
quickly switched around, isn't it?
any frustration in terms of that exchange out of Oleg? Or just matter of fact?
I think he just wanted to make it clear that because it was Oleg who said, we'll just play, because there's
Because we don't
no
want to
point
save
the money
10%
behind.
for the flip.
And Svesco sort of went, okay, yeah, we just play. But I
How
don't
much
think
for?
there was that clear indication that was why. I mean, some language barrier, perhaps. He's saying, I wasn't saying you're bad. Like, chill out. leave me alone a minute. Just let me win a pot. I wasn't coming after you personally. It just feels a little bit beaten up right now, Oleg. He's lost every hand of a heads up, Ali.
Yeah.
It feels grim. You come in with over 2-1 lead. Blink. In a deep
Yeah,
game,
no
blink
разлачиваем
and you're
было.
behind.
Пока.
Well, to be fair, Svesco was never going to be a walk in the park, was he? He has fought hard here at this FT, James, and now finds himself in a brilliant position to possibly close this one out, as heads up has been all him to this point.
Still so deep, though. Over 30 blinds effective. With 100 blinds in play.
Might this be the first pot that Oleg can drag, as he was dominated pre, hits his side card.
But look what we got going here. We've got the King of Spades Ali on a Jack 10 board. There's lots of bad turn cards here. There's one of them.
Both players checking, and now the nut spade draw along with the Broadway gutty presents itself to Svesco. This one was a limp pot pre.
Ali, obviously you were getting that last knockings at the buffet, so you won't be aware, but I bet $1,000 Svesco versus you, just so you know. You auto accepted because you
Because I wasn't here to decline?
Yeah, I got the choice.
Okay.
I chose the short stack. You gave me odds.
Oh, wow. Good luck collecting, James. Just want to get that out there. Meanwhile, Oleg, good luck me, is what he's thinking as he calls this $2.5 million with the tens and the spade draw. Inferior edition.
Wow.
As the queen of spades rolls off. Both players making the flush. And let's see whether or not an escape is in Oleg's future here as he checks and is up against the nuts and still can't win one heads up.
Yeah, and it's pretty grim because the Jack of Spades would bet the flop when check 2. Doesn't have the Ace of Spades, doesn't have the Queen of Spades on the board. So you're looking at King of Spades. A lot of the time that does bet the flop on Jack 10 deuce. And then the other spades that might go for value, the 9 of Spades, 8 of Spades, probably have something to bet the flop with as well, Ali. So this doesn't look like he gets to have it too often. And it looks like he's gone a big sizing for exactly that reason. He's polarizing Ali, 10 mil.
Man.
Oleg, nice fold.
Yeah. Yeah. 10 into 8.6 is designed to look very fishy, and yet Oleg perhaps just feeling bruised and beaten and battered, as you mentioned, is thinking there's no world in which this 5 of spades is going to be good. Kind of breathless as he's down to a worse than 2-1 dog.
Look at that, Ollie, as well. Lines are creeping.
800, 1.6 million.
Shorten levels, heads up, of course. And yeah, that's the reverse of how these guys started this match.
Yeah, and it didn't take long to get there, did it? Just a handful of pots?
It really didn't. I've got some sympathy for Oleg. He's been absolutely battered, but he's been up against it every time, bar that one humongous bluff that if he'd called with his 9s up, we'd been the bar.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. The opportunity was his for the taking, and he got bluffed off of it, and it has been all downhill.
Yeah.
A real tailspin as the yoke has been involuntarily pushed forward and the terrain begins to fill his windscreen. Here in Flight Retro main event.
Glad you said forward and not down.
Yeah. We're both av geeks, James. Come on, give me a little credit.
You'd be surprised.
So Oleg limping here, desperately trying to do something to change his trajectory. Queen, Jack, 3. Middle pair. Against bottom pair. Could this be his first pot? Goes check, check. Now, a hard draw for Svesco, James. And
It's just not fair.
well, for the time being, Oleg still with the best hand.
Come on, the way this is going, you think Svesco's not improving
I
on the
think
river?
absolutely what happens on the end is the Jack of Hearts. I mean, 5 of Hearts. What else?
Yeah, just 3 of spades, maybe.
So 1.7 million, the bet from Svesco with the worst hand, but 32% equity. And on the river, it is red, but not a heart. A safe one for Oleg.
Yeah, a little action killing as well. Oleg can't really extract any value here.
Can Svesco barrel once more, James? Remember, this was limped pre. I think we imagined King 10 would have raised pre. Maybe there's
Yeah.
some 9-10 that limps in and doesn't make it. And now
Wow.
max pressure applications.
And Ali, this is again, does he have time banks? Are we just going to confuse him by betting these massive sizes? This is what I've seen so many people do in these situations where your opponent has no time banks, is just bet huge a lot. And there is some method to this particular hand. Obviously a 3 block. Some of the 2 pairs. Not too relevant the way this hand's played out. It gets a fold. I'm not surprised to see him get a fold there, of course. He has a deuce. Deuce 5 has obviously got there.
Okay, we're not surprised to see the fold, but I think we are surprised to see the jam.
Just the 4 times pot Ali with bottom pair. As you do. Svesco just dropping the hammer. And I'm actually surprised because he's won so many of the hands. I'd be thinking, I'm not going to bluff this guy in a big spot too soon because I think he's getting close to the edge, getting close to snapping.
Yeah, right. I'm being a little bit greedy. He's going to dig in at some point, but
Yeah.
Дали книгу ни jednu ruku.
the heavy equipment has entered the construction site, James, and it is Serbian branded. Bulldozing his way into a whopping chip lead and just bludgeoning Oleg Nataliev, who, by the way, don't allow yourself to be tempted into thinking that this man is the type that ends up heads up and just gets
No.
mowed. That is not the character that we are squaring off against, but thus far he has been made to look very bad
Pass.
by Svesco and an assist from the deck.
Yeah, I mean, that one, okay, you get bluffed off. You have 3rd pair, no big deal. The 9 deuce, it's going to be a painful one when he looks back on it that he got bluffed. The rest of the time, Svesco's had it in some less than certain spots as well that he's going to have it. So you just got to persevere, play your game. Double up puts you back in the lead. That's how he's got to think about this.
Sorry, yeah.
Say it puts it back in the lead. It probably put him even now. Actually, I think they're almost exactly 3-1. Svesco's way. Oh wow! Oh wow! This is not fair, Ollie.
Listen, James, I've watched some disasters unfold in my day, but the one we've got on our hands right now has been a unilateral tragedy in terms of Oleg Nataliev, who now finds himself with ace-queen limping, begging for Svesco to get out of line here.
Yeah.
Of course, he is loaded for bear with the 2 kings.
This is not how it's supposed to finish. It's supposed to be a bit more fun than this. for
Listen,
Oleg.
it's not done.
No, but I mean, how's this the way they're gonna get him?
He could double.
Oh,
Yeah. He could.
No time banks. The all-in comes in.
It's just not fair though. The way he finally gets the hand and
Very fast
Svesco's-
heads up.
We'll see.
Huh?
We'll see.
Svesco taking nothing for granted.
This is for Oleg's life. And that is one that weakens the pulse considerably as the ace hunt is on. 3 outs twice. Svesko with the kings. And now all of a sudden opportunities courtesy of the coordinated turn. A 3 or an 8. And we hit the reset button. An ace and a double. Anything else? And Darko Svesko is your main event champ. James.
Incredible, incredible. If you told me this heads-up match would be finished in 30 minutes, I would not have had Darko being the winner, having started 2-1 down. But that was all one-way traffic heads-up. Steamrolled, bulldozed, however you want to say it, Ali.
Well, listen, it was a helpful deck, obviously, but it felt very preordained from this vantage point. As his rail is right there to congratulate him. Credit, of course, to Oleg Nataliev, $418,000 going his way. But Svesko is the man of the hour, James, and that means I am the man who's got to run out and do an interview with him as I leave you here to take us home.
Well, as Ali runs out there, we will quickly recap how things played out there. It was Dukic going out in fourth for 191. Atala then was the man three-handed who didn't want to do the deal. Left it to play for, and he picked up 257. These two then played that rapid heads-up match, and it was Darko running out the winner, Svesko taking home the title, $567,000, and of course both taking home their career best score. And as you can see, this man has run off. He's going to go get a word with our winner, but before we send down to him, I just want to say thank you to all of you who've been tuning in over the last 10 days or so, and on behalf of Dara and David, who have also disappeared. It's just poor little me on my own here. Ali, and of course all the Share Hands crew and the Merit staff. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to see you back here in November. Of course, there's a little matter of the EPT in between now and then, but for the Merit point of view, the Gangster series will be our next in-house production. But for now, it is over to Ali with our champion of the main event.
Now and again in life, there's fate. And on today's occasion, I feel like fate very much played a part in the outcome for the Merit Retro main event champion, Darko Svesko, who's standing with me now. Now, what am I talking about, Darko? Of course, it's the fact that Mr. Atala wanted to play a flip for $100,000, make a deal three-handed when you were third in chips, and it fell apart. And it's a good thing that it did, because now you are the winner, $567,000 richer. What was your reaction when all of a sudden what seemed like it might have been an ICM chop went away?
I mean, it happened like this. I thought about the deal and the split money, and I considered it, and I would like to accept it, but he wanted to play a flip for an extra 100K, and then we said no, and then it was off, and then I had to like bring back the grind mode again to chip up and eventually win. No, yeah.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. Grind mode is something that is very much a gear in your transmission, because we watched you handcuffed, shackled right here at this table where you had 10 big blinds and less, and then all of a sudden a couple of key hands took place, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, it was like a roller coaster. I mean, I was short and I was 10 big blinds, 12 big blinds, 7 big blinds. I think I went almost to 4.5 big blinds in one point, and then it was double up, A7 suited, my first key hand, and then that set up with my friends.
Yeah.
Aces versus ace king. Yeah.
And then Jukic, obviously the other Serbian there, and he was on the receiving end of that, unfortunately. But it is what catapulted you up into being in that three-handed position. The deal doesn't go down. You end up taking it down. This is your first ever time visiting us here at Merit Poker, and I'm curious for you what your takeaway has been. Obviously, we know you're going to be happy no matter where you play cards if you're going to win $567,000, far and away your best ever live cash, more than you'd earned in your career to this point. But what's it been like playing in these fields and experiencing what this room offers?
I mean, I said to my friend, like, this organization is really amazing. I really loved it. The blind structure, the MTTs, the players, like, it was like perfect for me. I don't know. it's my first time here, and I enjoyed it like every single day. It was like hot weather, fun, cards and everything.
Yeah.
And then I end up winning now, so that's like a perfect finish, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, I know it is your first time, Darko, so I do feel compelled to let you know that it is a tradition that the main event champion jump into the sea after they win, no matter what time it is. So
Oh,
are you
really?
ready
Yeah.
to run down? We'll send the cameras down with you. Did you bring your swimsuit, or are you just going?
Okay, we will manage something.
I'm only
maybe
kidding.
later.
I'm
We will
only
manage
kidding.
something maybe later.
Listen, enjoy it, my friend. Congratulations. You very much earned it. Darko Svetsko, your Retro Series main event champion.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good job. Bravo. Well, just moments from bringing you back to the break desk here at the Marriott Crystal Cove Hotel and Casino.
They will share a staggering $1.92 million.
Record-breaking assembly of events, which is now culminating in this final day